Welcome to Best in Tesla News, episode 247. And yes, I am still on the road here in Sri Lanka for my Best in Tech channel, but of course you're gonna get your weekly news show here on Best in Tesla because oh boy, have we got a lot of great news about Tesla making new records, and the stock is up quite a bit, probably because more and more analysts are starting to realize Tesla is not just a car company. But also, at the same time, the legacy automakers are showing really bad numbers and they are struggling and they are losing China and losing billions of dollars selling EVs and simply just can't keep up. All of this and much more in today's episode. Let's dive right in.
Let's put our living stereo stylus in this groove.
Volkswagen seems to be in bigger trouble than we first thought.
Volkswagen plans to shut down at least 3 factories in Germany, lay off tens of thousands of staff, and permanently shrink its remaining plants in Europe's biggest economy as the continent's top car maker is plotting a deeper than expected overhaul, the Worker Council head said Monday. Management is absolutely serious about all this. This is not a saber rattling in the collective bargaining round. Daniela Cavallo, Volkswagen's Works Council head, told several hundreds of employees in Wolfsburg. This is the plan of Germany's largest industrial group to start the sell-off in its home country of Germany, Cavallo added, not specifying which plants would be affected or how many of Volkswagen Group's roughly 300,000 staff in Germany could be laid off. The comments marked a major acceleration of the conflict between Volkswagen's workers and the group's management, which is under severe pressure to cut costs and remain competitive in light of weaker demand from China and Europe. Cavallo said there was agreement between both sides regarding the nature of the problem the car maker and many of the European peers face, ranging from slower than expected electric transition to fierce Chinese rivals entering Europe. We are not far apart when it comes to analyzing the problem, but we are miles apart on the answer to them. So yes, Volkswagen seems to be in big trouble and has to cut costs fast to stay competitive. But unfortunately, it's not by making their production or their product more affordable to produce as Tesla is doing, but by firing people. Seems like a very short-term solution and will not get them to be competitive in the long run. But it's not just Volkswagen that is in trouble, but all of Germany's automakers, as a new study shows. Germany's EV transformation could cost 186,000 jobs by 2035. Of which roughly a quarter have already occurred, a study commissioned by the VDA Auto Industry Association showed. But Volkswagen has to change all of this because their profits are shrinking away. Volkswagen Group's third quarter operating margins shrank to the lowest since COVID-19 pandemic and forcing the automakers to idle production and shutter showrooms. Operating profit fell by 42% to $3.1 billion or 78.5 billion euros in revenue in the quarter. Volkswagen said in a statement, operating margins dropped to 3.6%, so they are nowhere near the 2026 target of 6.5% operating margins, and nowhere near Tesla's operating margins.
Tesla stock has been on the rise ever since the earnings call, which rarely happens, but it seems like more and more analysts are starting to get it. Tesla is not just a car company.
But personally, I think it's because there has been so much negativity towards Tesla over the last year with their price cutting and so on, and Tesla is losing their margins. That has kind of been the bear's thesis over the last year. But now we suddenly see Tesla jump back up in their automotive gross margin, showing that everyone else is struggling on EV and losing money, while Tesla is cutting costs on producing them, not by firing people like we have seen with Volkswagen, but by making their products cheaper to produce. They even shared their COGS, the cost of goods sold, to show that it has never been cheaper for Tesla to build an EV, even now with the Cybertruck in the mix, 2026 that they could also show had become profitable, while everyone else is losing money. And suddenly they are back having a margin of 19.8% and back having an operating margin of 10.8%. And like I just said, Volkswagen had an operating margin of 3.6%. So all in all, Tesla has just showed what the bears has been talking about. The margin was down. But as I have said many times, this is just temporary and it will go back up. And now suddenly we see the bear's thesis was no longer true. And Tesla is back being one of the most profitable car manufacturers on EVs that everyone else is losing money on. So Tesla is back in the lead of being an automaker, making Wall Street guys happy also because Tesla actually confirmed that they will be launching the more affordable models in the first half of 2025. So as an automaker, Tesla gave Wall Street more than what they thought. And at the same time, it's getting harder and harder to ignore Tesla's lead in autonomy, as more and more analysts are getting what the difference is between Tesla and someone like Waymo. Tesla will very fast become profitable on their full self-driving when they launched its unsupervised full self-driving next year, and then their robotaxis. So we are really starting to be able to see the road for Tesla to become profitable on their robotaxis and unsupervised full self-driving. Waymo, on the other hand, has been operating robotaxis for about 7 years and is still losing money. I think even Wall Street is starting to realize that Waymo's business model will never really become profitable, and now Tesla will come in and undercut them on price and flood the market with ride-hailing service with all their existing Teslas, and in 2 years' time their Cybercab. It seems like even some of the guys on Wall Street are starting to see what is about to play out over the next couple of years, as we have been talking about on this channel for the last 5 years. And that is probably some of the reasons why the stock is shooting up. There are really no bad things to say anymore, and the future has never looked better. And if you ask Ron Barron when Tesla will license their full self-driving and when it's time to bet on the full self-driving story, well, take a listen to this.
So what's going to happen is that I thought the idea had been that you're going to sell a lot of cars. So as a result of that, once they have those cars out there, you'll sell autonomous driving. And he said the other day that he's negotiating to sell autonomous driving for some other cars too. No one has the compute, no one has the data.
That's the long-term thing. If Tesla's everywhere, just like the Tesla charging.
If they're making cars, they make $7,000 in profit a car for a car they're selling for $35,000, minus the $7,500 credit.
What's your timing? But just give me the timing. That's the whole game.
Now.
Now?
Now. It's now.
Another reason why Tesla's stock might be up is also because Tesla's good result in Q3 just makes the other OEM's Q3 EV result look hopeless.
Ford's Q3 earnings call came out this week. The company's EV units, the Model E, lost $1.2 billion in Q3 with a negative EBIT margin of 104%. EV revenue was $1.2 billion, down 33% year over year. Ford says EV revenue was down 33%, reflecting industry-wide pricing pressure and lower volume. So what they're saying here is that Tesla cutting prices is really hurting Ford. They have a nice product like the Mach-E, but because it's up against someone like the Model Y, that is a better EV for a better price, it's not easy selling a lot of Mach-E's. And a good showcase of what we have been talking about many times before. It is much harder for the legacy automakers to sell EVs than it was for Tesla, because Tesla didn't have much competition in the beginning, but now Ford is up against someone like Tesla that is just so far ahead in the EV evolution and production. So of course it will be basically impossible for someone like Ford to compete against Tesla, as Tesla earns about $7,000 on every EV they sold in Q3, and Ford lost about $38,000 on every EV they sold in Q3. So Tesla could, in theory, lower their prices another $5,000 and still be earning money, and forcing Ford to also lower their price if they want to stay competitive, but that just means losing more money for Ford. So of course Ford is struggling as they have a competitor that is dictating the price of an EV at a level they cannot compete. And their unit sales are also down 11% year over year. So Ford is not really growing much. They will surpass last year's numbers for sure. But if they are lucky, they will get to about 100,000 units in total in 2024. And they are struggling to get to these numbers and talking about a lack of EV demand, while the best-selling car in the world and also in the country, in the US, will likely end up being the Tesla Model Y this year again. So no, it's not a general lack of demand for EVs, as other EV manufacturers like Teslas are selling an order of magnitude more EVs than Ford does. It is very clear that it is a lack of demand for Ford's EVs, probably because people can get a Model Y cheaper and will get a better EV with better performance, software, safety features and charging and so on. So not a big surprise that Ford is still struggling with the EV sales and is still nowhere near being a competitor for Tesla. And just as we hear, the Cybertruck is becoming profitable and production and sales are ramping up, Ford announced that Ford will stop production of the F150 Lightning due to lower than expected demand from mid-November until the end of the year. Ouch. Not easy doing what Tesla does. They just make it look easy.
And Porsche now joins BMW about complaining about the 2035 ban of ICE cars because they're struggling with their EV sales.
As Porsche's finance chief warns of Europe poverty house as EV transition struggles. So Porsche is revising its EV strategy, moving away from the 80% EV target by 2035. Company plans to maintain combustion engines longer than initially planned. What a surprise, as their China market share dropped from 32% to 18%. With a 33% decline in the first half of 2024. Like all other European automakers, they are getting killed in China. And that might also be because of the Chinese competition, as we have seen Xiaomi, the SU7 Ultra prototype, making record-breaking lap at the Nürburgring, so beating Porsche at their own game. A phone maker making a copy that is better around the racetrack than the original. And now that is saying something. And the SU7 Ultra will only cost about $114,000, whereas the Taycan Turbo S cost about $250,000 in China right now. I know the SU7 is not a Porsche, but if you're Chinese and can save $136,000 and still get the fastest car around the racetrack, will they even care that it's not a Porsche? And maybe that is one of the reasons why we are seeing someone like Porsche struggle in China. And Porsche also calls for removal of the 2035 ICE ban in the EU, just as we have heard from BMW. They warns about the European industry's ability to survive EV-only focus. Yes, that is going to be tough because they started way too late and didn't take EVs seriously enough. So sorry, Porsche, but that one is actually on you. And they are advocating for a technology-neutral approach, including e-fuels. I have already made a whole video about e-fuels and how stupid that whole idea is, so if you want to learn more, check that one out, link down below. But the Chinese EV makers selling premium vehicles at $30,000 versus Europeans $70,000 to $80,000. Yes, we have seen the Xiaomi SU7, basically a couple of the Porsche Taycan that only cost $30,000 in China versus Porsches that are 2 to 3 times higher. So Porsche's CFO assesses that China is effectively lost to European automakers in both the short term and medium term. We simply can't assume anymore that the market there will return to where it once was for the European manufacturers. China has transformed toward electrification, and unfortunately, Europeans no longer play a significant role there. Yes, exactly. And nice to hear this from one of the legacy automakers. So it's no longer just us in the Tesla community that has been saying this for years. As he continued, the EV segment in the world's largest automotive markets is now dominated by local manufacturers and Tesla, I might just add, who has completely different cost structures and are positioned entirely different in terms of their digitalization and connectivity compared to the Europeans. This applies equally to premium manufacturer and volume producers. Yep, there is no longer any hiding it anymore. The legacy automakers are dying in China. And for the German automakers, they have between 40 to 50% of their profits coming from China. This is a big loss for them and will hurt them badly. And for someone to still think EVs are not the future, they're just kidding themselves, as the biggest market in the world is already 50% new energy vehicles. And if China goes 100% EV, then the rest of the world will have to follow. This is the biggest market in the world. If you want to be one of the biggest players, you have to be part of this market, and therefore become an EV-only player within the next 5 years or so. And we can see, even though the old guys had plans like Mercedes and Volvo that were aiming for 100% EVs in 2030 and Porsche for 80% in 2030, they are all backing down from those targets as they are struggling with the EV sales, as they have both the Chinese and Tesla to fight against. It is already over. It's just a matter of time to let this one play out. And let's squeeze in the last short news topics into this news show.
Yes, it's time for the Tesla shorts.
And we got some sales numbers from Australia, and Tesla's Model Y is still the best-selling EVs year to date, but with the Model 3 just behind it. And then we have BYD Seal with about 1/3 of Tesla's models. And then the Auto 3 on number 4, and then we have the MG4 on the 5th place. So none of the legacy automakers managed to be in the top 5. It is still Tesla and the Chinese leading the way. And Volkswagen's Scout Motors showed off its new EV with a built-in gas generator. You wanted a relationship truck, old school, retooled, true off-roader, EV powered and tech with a bit of gas. We listened. So, complicating things once again by making a little gas engine as well. Not sure I see the use case for this, but let's see how it goes. But the first time I saw it, I actually thought it was a Rivian ad, but then I realized it was a Scout EV. Seems like Volkswagen has copied Rivian's design quite a bit on this one. And Tesla wrote on X, "Can't beat home charging," because Nick made this post. To charge our 2 Teslas last night cost only $1. 0.028 kilowatt hours times 36 kilowatt hours added. 2 performance car cost next to nothing to own. Yep, eventually everyone will get just how cheap and more convenient it is to own an electric car. And Serve the Home shared a video from inside xAI's supercomputer of 100,000 NVIDIA's H100 GPUs. Very nice video, I can highly recommend you to check it out, but Elon did post about it and wrote, soon to be 200,000 H100 and H200 training cluster in a single building. So the world's largest is about to double in size. And the crazy thing is that by the end of this year, Elon Musk companies, Tesla and xAI, will have brought online roughly $10 billion worth of training compute capacity in 2024 alone. These systems will be used to train Grok, Full Self-Driving, and the Optimus robot. People that say that Tesla is just a car company are just completely clueless. And Bank of America, John Murphy, said this week, "I've been doing this for 25 years. I have never seen a company like Tesla before. Elon Musk has done something truly amazing. Autonomy is far more important than people realize. Tesla is entering its next growth wave." Yes, exactly. So nice to hear this from someone outside the Tesla community. And Elon says that Neuralink brain implant should not be super expensive. In very high volume, it should start at approximately the cost of an Apple Watch or a phone, so maybe $1,000 to $2,000. We do have a game plan for what I call 600-second surgery. So 10 minutes, you sit in the chair, and 10 minutes later, you have an implant. We are not violating physics. And Toyota, Nippon Telegraph and Telephone announced they will invest $3.3 billion in research and development to create artificial intelligence software to improve full self-driving. It's a bit late to enter the game now, Toyota, but good luck, of course. The car maker and Toyota headquarters, Telco, are planning to develop automotive software which will use AI to anticipate accident and take control of the vehicle. The deal comes at a time when Japanese automakers are looking to tap into booming advanced automotive driving market, which is primarily dominated by Tesla. But here's the kicker. The firm are currently looking to have a working system ready by 2028 and providing it to other automakers. That is so funny. If we believe both Tesla and Toyota, well, Toyota will have an advanced driver assist feature in a couple of years after Tesla will have launched their robotaxis. This will probably age as well as Toyota's claim of solid-state battery breakthrough we have been hearing about for more than a decade now. And a cool video about what the future is going to look like when you don't pick up your car, but the car picks you up, as Tesla wrote. Dad goes to pick up a new Tesla, but it picked up him instead. So cool. And Neon, the energy company that built Tesla's first big battery in Australia, has just turned on an 877 megawatt-hour Tesla Megapack battery, the largest in West Australia, but this is just stage one. When complete, this $1.1 billion Tesla Megapack battery energy storage system will be over twice the size of the storage system pictured here. A massive 2,240 megawatt-hour battery. When complete, the Collie battery will have the ability to charge and discharge 20% of the average demand in West Australia's main grid. Yeah, the politicians that call Tesla's big battery a big banana should just retire in shame. These batteries are such a good business case that here, 6 years later, after the first one, they are building them like crazy. Bigger and bigger and bigger. And Tesla released a new video about Tesla's Cybercab, as Tesla wrote on X. Cybercab is individualized point-to-point autonomous transport. Yep, this will be one of the biggest disruption in our transportation history, and it is coming in 2 years' time. Such a good time to be alive. And BYD has also made a record Q3 and had more revenue than Tesla. In US dollars, BYD saw revenue of $28.2 billion in the third quarter, significantly outpacing Tesla's $25 billion. In the fourth quarter of 2023, the two automakers were essentially tied on $25,000 billion. But that is of course not completely comparing apples to apples, as BYD sold about 60% hybrids and about 40% BEVs. So about 60% of their revenue was from plug-in hybrids, which Tesla of course doesn't sell. So when it comes to revenue on pure BEV sales, Tesla is still far out in front of BYD, and also sold about 20,000 more units in Q3 than BYD, that sold about 443,000 units of BEVs. So the lack of revenue of BYD's BEVs is of course that they sell EVs that cost as low as $10,000 and Tesla's BEVs start at $40,000. So on battery electric vehicle, Tesla's revenue is much higher than BYD. And when we look at net income, Tesla is still leading, as BYD made a $1.6 billion in net income and Tesla had about $2.2 billion. So it seems like BYD is back having a positive free cash flow for the first time here in 2024, but Tesla is still in front when it comes to units sold by about 165,000 units over BYD. So it seems likely that Tesla will keep the crown as the best-selling BEV manufacturer again in 2024, unless BYD has one hell of a Q4. And Elon Musk did speak at the Saudi Arabian FII summit before and said that we would probably have more humanoid robots than humans in 2040. And I know I have shown this video about the Cyber Beast versus the Lambo before last week, but this week I found it from inside the $800,000 Lambo that got smoked by the $100,000 Cybertruck or Cyber Beast. And look at the interior of the Lambo there. It looked like something straight out of the 1990s. And Tesla shared the estimate of emission of their robotaxis as they wrote on X. Estimated life cycle emission for autonomy are significantly lower, and shared this picture that said 82% of all miles driven is 2 or less passenger. So if you're wondering why Tesla only made a 2-seater, well, here is your answer. They're going for about 82% of the market. And because they're so cheap to operate, you can just order 2 or 3 if you need more passenger transported. But that is only about 18% of the market. The Cybercab will be able to handle over 80% of all miles driven. Nice. And Waymo has announced that they are now providing over 150,000 paid robotaxi trips per week, up from 100,000 per week in August. Waymo's entire robotaxi fleet is now driving over 1 million fully autonomous miles every week. So that is very impressive. But still, when they are making over 150,000 paid robotaxis a week, they are still not profitable. And when Tesla enters the market in a couple of years, they will force Waymo to lower their prices significantly if they want to stay competitive. So even though Waymo is doing very well with their robotaxi drives, they still have a long way to go to become profitable with their business case, and that is without Tesla's Cybercabs on the road. And they have been making paid rides for about 7 years now. And 1 million miles driven per week is what Tesla does on their full self-driving beta testers a day. And on top of that, Tesla has about 7 million vehicles training in shadow mode every day and collecting data from probably something like 200 million miles every single day. There is just no comparison between these two business models. One is made for scale and fast, and the other is just impossible to scale fast. And Tesla break ground on the Oasis, a massive 168-stall supercharger in Lost Hills, California. Tesla is leveraging an 11 megawatt ground-mounted solar array with solar canopies to power the site. To complement the solar infrastructure, Tesla is incorporating 39 megawatt hours of energy storage using 10 megapacks. It will be the world's largest supercharger site and serve as a key charging hub on one of the busiest electric vehicle corridors in the world, Interstate 5 between San Francisco and Los Angeles. And a good showcase of the future of the charging stations with solar and battery storage. And from the renders, also with chargers specifically for vehicles with trailers and camper van. Nice.
And in Europe in September, 60% of European automotive sales were electrified. Tesla's Model Y and Tesla's Model 3 was, of course, Europe's 2 best-selling BEVs in September. Some 295,000 plug-in vehicles were registered in Europe in September, rising 6% year over year, which represents the EV market's return to growth for the first time since April. This is even more significant when you consider that the overall market fell 4% to 1.1 million units. Interestingly, BEVs are the ones pushing the market upwards, growing 14% year over year to 212,000 units. Plug-in hybrids remain stuck in red, falling 9% in September to 83,000 units. Looks like it is playing out just as I have been talking about for the whole year, that the fall in BEV sales were just temporary and they will come back growing very soon, and we now have reached that point. And no, plug-in hybrid has not overtaken BEV sales. BEV still sells more than twice the amount. And Tesla AI shared another post about their AI progress and forecast for October and November. But the big highlight is that full self-driving version 13 is set to ship to internal customers by the end of this week. And as they wrote, we have integrated several of these improvements and are already seeing a 4x increase in miles between necessary intervention compared to version 12.5.4. This is about to get really interesting very soon.
And let's end off with this little reminder of just how good the Tesla Model Y is doing, as Elon replied, not bad. to Sawyer's little tweet here that said Tesla's Model Y, #1 best-selling car overall in the world, #1 best-selling car overall in Europe, on track to become #1 best-selling car overall in the US. It is the #1 most American-made car, #1 best-selling car by revenue in the world, launched just 4.5 years ago. Now that is a success story if I have ever seen one.
The Model Y, I think it's terminally ugly. I don't know who's going to buy that. It's another one of these humpback things like the Model X. It's neither a sport utility nor a sedan, and to the extent it sells, I don't think it's going to break into a new segment. I think the sales will be largely substitutional to the Model 3.
And before we end off with a bit of fun, I just want to make a quick shout out to my newest supporter of this channel. My new YouTube member, Linda Vingro, and my new Patreon producer, Richard Kaufman.
Thank you so much for all your support. I am doing this all by myself, but you guys are all the producers of this new show. Thank you. And let's end off with a bit of fun. Fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me. Fool me a third time. That is all we have time for in this new show. Hope you enjoyed it. If you did, don't forget to hit that like button. It really does help this video out a lot so others can find it on YouTube. And if you did like it, maybe you want to consider hitting that subscribe button, notification bell, so you don't miss out on future videos just like this one. And remember, next week, all back to normal when I get back to my studio.
And if you're already a subscriber to the channel, thank you so much for the support. But if you want to support the channel even more, remember you can, for as little as $1, become a patron of this channel, or become a member of the YouTube channel to get a shout out as some extra perks like early access, ad-free versions of my videos, exclusive videos. So hit the members button or check out Patreon to find out more. And don't forget to follow me on X. I post pretty much all the news as it comes out and a lot more. And check out the merch store to get some merchandise and support the show. It is also possible to support the show without becoming a member or a patron. There is a donation option down below or on my website bestintesla.com. You can also become an executive producer and get news articles, exclusive videos, behind the scenes, and access to all my research charts and spreadsheet also on bestintesla.com, or as simple as hitting the super like button.
And thank you for watching. And until next time, take care out there. Be nice.